Welcome to today's live reading of Brilliant as the Sun, a retelling of Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 2, Mysteries of Creation, Chapter 5, The Cause of All Causes. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya, Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya, Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Shukadev recounts a discussion between Brahma and Narad in which Brahma describes how Lord Vishnu enacts the primary creation, manifesting the ingredients of the cosmos along with the conditioned living beings. Following this, Brahma carries out the secondary creation in accord with Krishna's plan, assembling the elements to create the manifest universe. Brahma sat in his splendid assembly hall, which assumed various indescribable forms moment after moment. Constructed with celestial gems which constantly changed hue, it appeared to be suspended in the firmament by its own power. It knew no deterioration and continuously increased the bliss of its occupants. Along with Brahma were the personified forms of mind, space, knowledge, sound, touch, form, taste, scent, nature, all the elements and the prime causes of the universe. Present were also the moon, the sun, stars, constellations, joy, aversion, asceticism, understanding, patience, wisdom, forgiveness, fortune, and all the Vedas. When Brahma finished giving audience and rose to leave, the attendant gods and sages called out in unison, "All glory to Lord Brahma, the all-knowing Father of creation." As they repaired to their own abodes in the wake of Brahma's departure, they constantly praised the great Lord. Lord Brahma is unequaled in power, knowledge, and austerity. Hearing these comments, the intelligent Narad became absorbed in thought. He knew his father had performed such much austerity. Why would he do so if he was supreme? Perplexed by this, Narad decided to directly ask Brahma himself. Approaching Brahma in his private chamber, Narad humbly touched his father's feet. "Is there anything troubling you, my son?" asked Brahma. With palms joined, Narad replied, "My dear father, chief among the Devas, firstborn one, please instruct me in transcendental knowledge. What does this material cosmos rest upon? How was it created? How is it preserved? Who is the creator and maintainer? You know everything, for all things past, present, and future are held within your grasp, exactly like a walnut. You do not know who creates, dear son." Narad bowed his head down low before his father and humbly replied, "O great one, I understand that you alone create this universe just as a spider creates its web. Still, I have heard that prior to creating you performed great penance. I therefore wonder if there is someone more powerful than you from whom you derive your knowledge and power. My dear father, you control this universe and know everything about it. Therefore, please instruct me." Brahma's face lit up with an expansive smile. "O auspicious son, I am most pleased by your intelligent question, which brought to my mind the all-powerful Supreme Lord. Surely it is only by his inconceivable will that you appear confused on this point. I know you are a liberated soul and therefore aware of the truth. By Krishna's desire, you ask only to clear up others' ignorance and to show me mercy by giving me an opportunity to speak about my Lord." Brahma then described how the cosmos comes into being. First, Mahavishnu manifests the material creation from his personal effulgence, the Brahma Jyoti. Only then do I make the created forms visible. Just as when the sun manifests its rays, the moon and the luminaries also shine forth. How is it then, asked Narad, that you are widely accepted as the Guru and creator of the universe? Brahma bowed his head and with folded palms prayed, "I offer my obeisance to and meditate upon Lord Krishna, by whose insurmountable illusory potency known as Maya, less intelligent people call me the Supreme Controller. Then again addressing Narad, Brahma said, ashamed of her task, Maya stands behind Narayan. Only when we ignore the Lord can she delude us into thinking that anything exists independently of him. In truth, everything is his energy, including the elements of material creation, karma, eternal time, and the living beings' individual natures. My dear son, the Vedas come from the Lord and are meant to guide us toward him. The practice of Ashtanga Yoga, as well as austerity and all transcendental knowledge, are for realizing the Lord. The gods are born from his bodily limbs. The planets and the success of all sacrifices depend on him alone. Narad asked, if Lord Narayan does everything, what do you do? As the super soul, he inspires me to discover what he has already created. Since both you and the Lord create, what is the distinction between you? Unlike me, Narayan has a pure spiritual form, transcendental to matter. Nevertheless, to create, maintain, and destroy the physical universes, he acts through the modes of material nature. Please explain how the all spirit, by the mode of goodness, he manifests passion, he exerts his potency of action, the Kriya Shakti. This develops into Adhyatma potency, which manifests the living entity's senses, such as the ear, eye, and tongue. By the mode of ignorance, the Lord generates matter or Dravya Shakti. This produces the physical bodies of the living beings, known collectively as Adibhut, through which they experience the effects of conditioned existence, such as repeated birth and death. Brahma shook his head ruefully. He felt compassion for the foolish souls who were trying to enjoy the material energy. If only they could understand the happiness of serving Krishna, he continued, due to the modes of nature, the conditioned souls cannot see the transcendental Lord. Though unseen, he controls every living being, including myself. Narad said, please explain about how the Lord creates. The whole material creation is a manifestation of his energies, just as the light and heat are energies of fire. By his will alone, he brings eternal time, the fates of all living beings and their individual natures into existence from within himself. All these are aspects of his impersonal feature. He remains distinct in his personal form, which is the complete whole. Everything again merges back into him at the time of annihilation. Can you describe how this occurs? Initially, Narayan, who is Krishna's expansion, incarnates as Mahavishnu, the first Purusha avatar. Then the Mahatattva, the combined principles of material creation, appears. Of these principles, time first becomes active and sets in motion the three modes of nature. These three modes, otherwise known as material nature, then generate the creation. Please explain this in more detail, my lord. For example, I would like to know how the modes of nature act. The principles of material creation, when dormant, are called pradhan. The Lord agitates pradhan by his glance, which manifests as Shiva. Thus activated, it is known as Mahatattva. At first, the modes of goodness and passion, represented by Vishnu and Brahma, begin to act. Later, the mode of ignorance, represented by Shiva, produces ahankar, the conditioned soul's egotistic false notion that matter is meant for their personal enjoyment. It is this ahankar, influenced by the modes of goodness, passion, and ignorance, that produces respectively the Gyan, Kriya, and Dravya Shaktis. These in turn bring about the Adidev, Adhyatma, and Adibhut potencies. Narad became thoughtful. Shiva was the husband of Durga, the goddess of the material energy. It therefore made sense that he, as the Lord's glance, impregnated nature with everything required for material existence, namely time and the living beings, along with their destinies and nature. Vishnu thus has no direct contact with matter. The sage recalled a line from the Upanishads, Parasya Shakti Vividhaiv Shruyate Swabhaviki Jnana Bala Kriya Cha. By his will alone, the Lord accomplishes everything effortlessly through his diverse energies. Folding his palms, Narad thanked his father. His heart was flooded with joy. Krishna's arrangements were astonishing and perfect in every way. Still, he could not understand why the Lord made such elaborate provisions for the eternal souls to forget their real nature and become entangled in material complexities. Divining his doubt, Brahma said, "The living beings are meant to serve Krishna for his enjoyment. When they are unwilling to do so, he allows them to forget him. They then become influenced by ahankar and identify with matter. To fulfill their deluded desires to enjoy independently of him, Krishna manifests the material realm. Here they enact their illicit aspiration to imitate him, as this is not possible in his spiritual kingdom." Brahma leaned back on his throne and sighed sadly. Krishna personally comes and explains the truth about himself, but those who desire to usurp his position remain obstinate. The Lord, out of his kindness, does not interfere with their free will and does not expose himself to them. To fulfill their desire, he makes them think that when he descends in this world, he accepts a body like theirs. However, Krishna and Vishnu expansions always have unborn and unchangeable spiritual forms. Narad asked, "Since all conditioned souls are covered by ahankar, why does the Lord allow some to realize his supreme position and keeps others in darkness?" Brahma replied, "Krishna is in the heart of every living being. He knows our desire in the past, present, and future. When he sees that a living being is tiring of the egoistic attempts to compete with him, he gives the intelligence to understand the truth." "My son, you are free of all such egoism and thus quite competent to understand this knowledge." Bowing his head humbly, Narad asked him to continue describing the process of creation. Brahma said, "First let me explain the Dravya Shakti. When ahankar, or in the other words false ego, is influenced by the mode of ignorance, the gross and subtle material elements are generated, beginning with ether and its subtle form sound. Father, kindly explain what you mean by subtle form." This is the feature which enables an element to be experienced. For example, ether cannot be seen, felt, tasted, or smelled. However, if there is sound, then that means ether is present. Thus, sound is the subtle form of ether. Thanking his father, Narad respectfully requested him to continue explaining how the elements come into existence. Brahma said, "From ether comes air, along with its subtle form, touch. Air is the basis of longevity, sense perception, mental acuity, and bodily strength. It further evolves into fire along with its subtle form. Fire transforms into water with its subtle element taste. Water transforms into earth with its subtle element fragrance. Each element contains the subtle form of the preceding elements. For example, as well as being fragrant, earth can also be perceived by taste, touch, sound, and form." Narad listened in wonder as his father described the intricate layers of creation manifested by Krishna's inconceivable potencies. How could anyone possibly understand it unless the Lord himself explains, as he did to Brahma? Grateful to have the opportunity to be instructed by the powerful deity, Narad paid close attention as Brahma continued to speak. Okay, we will continue from here onwards next time. Thank you for joining. Hari Om Tat Sat. Hare Krishna.